Today we're going to take a look at the Scarab God. This is a common commander that is very popular among players because it's a good card for zombies to be played inside of this deck. So Scarab God costs black, blue, and 3 generic to cast for a legendary creature god. It is not a zombie itself, although the new Almond gods that have come out since then have all been zombies, so maybe there's hope for one day this being added to a zombie, but who knows. Right now it is not though. At the beginning of your upkeep, each opponent loses X life and you scry X, where X is the number of zombies that you control. You can pay black, blue, and 2, exile target creature from any graveyard, and then you create a copy of it, except it is a 4/4 black zombie. And then when Scarab God dies, return to the battlefield under its owner's hand at the beginning of the next end step. So it can make it so that Scarab God goes back to your hand, and then you just avoid the command attacks, hopefully. We do run a good amount of zombies and combos in our deck because we eventually do need to win the game. So we run Carrion Feeder, which is a sack outlet for us. Champion of the Perished is great for us because it's going to get +1/+1 counters when any zombie enters the battlefield under our control, including our tokens, or if we steal something with the Scarab God's ability out of someone's graveyard. Crypt Breaker gives us a couple options. We can pay a black and a generic, tap it, discard a card, put a 2/2 zombie creature token on the battlefield. We can tap 3 untapped zombies we control to draw a card and lose a life. So we got a little bit of card draw there. Gravecrawler is a part of a combo piece that we have because we can cast Gravecrawler from our graveyard as long as we control a zombie. So we sacrifice it to something like Carrion Feeder, and then we can get it back and make a huge Carrion Feeder. Blade Stitch Scab gives our zombies +1/+0. Metallic Mimic, as a shapeshifter, we're going to name zombie, and then each other creature that enters the battlefield under our control that is a zombie will come in with a +1/+1 counter, making our zombies a little bit bigger. Tainted Adversary has Death Touch, which is good, makes it hard for it to be blocked, but then when it enters the battlefield, we may pay black and 2 generic as many times as we want, and then if we do that, then we put that many +1/+1 counters on the Tainted Adversary and create twice that many 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with Decayed. Undead Augur gives us a little bit of card draw. Yes, we're going to lose some life, but that's okay. Adaptive Automaton, we would name zombie when it enters, and then other zombies we control get +1/+0, again helping our zombies get a little bit bigger so we can start swinging and doing some damage, or just have some good blockers. Cemetery Reaper buffs up our zombies, and then for 2 generic and a black, we can tap it and exile target creature card from a graveyard to create a 2/2 black creature token. So it helps us get stuff out of our opponent's graveyard, that especially if they're a mill deck, we want to get those creatures gone for good. Death Baron buffs up our zombies and skeletons, although we're not really playing skeletons. Diregraph Captain has Death Touch, which is good. Gives our zombies +1/+1, and then whenever another zombie we control dies, target opponent will lose a life. So this plus Gravecrawler and Carrion Feeder is going to mean a big Carrion Feeder, but we also would be able to drain the table and kill our opponents that way. Diregraph Colossus enters in with a +1/+1 counter for each zombie in our graveyard, and then when we cast a zombie spell, we make a tapped 2/2 black zombie creature token. Diregraph Colossus is okay for us. It's not the best because we generally don't have a ton of zombies in our graveyard. So this particular card is on our maybe list. It might end up being cut out of the deck just simply because the first part of it is not super relevant. Fleshbag Marauder is a zombie, so we're going to have it enter and it will sacrifice itself is what we would target usually, and then our opponents have to sacrifice a creature too. Geralf Visionary Stitcher is not a zombie, but it does give our zombies flying, and then we can pay a blue and tap it and sacrifice another non-token creature, and we create XX blue zombie creature tokens where X is the sacrifice creature's toughness. Headless Rider is good for us because when it or another non-token zombie dies, we're going to create a black 2/2 zombie creature token. Lord of the Accursed gives +1/+1 to all of our zombies, and then we can pay a black and 1 generic, tap it, and give all our zombies menace. Fell Horseman I kind of like because it is a 2-for-1 card. We can use the Sorcery Speed, the Deathly Ride, for a black and 1 generic to return target creature card from our graveyard to our hand. And then we can play the creature if we want, and when it dies, we put it on the bottom of our library, which is good because then we can get it back eventually. Gisa and Giralf, not a zombie, but when it enters the battlefield, we mill 4 cards, and then during each of our turns, we may cast a zombie creature spell from our graveyard. So if we mill some zombies, we can cast them, and then even if we didn't mill them with this, if we have some in our graveyard, this will help us slowly get things back. Josu Ves is nice for us because it's going to come in. We can just pay the 4 mana if we want, or if we do have the ability late game to play the kicker cost, then when it enters the battlefield, if it was kicked, we're going to create 8 2/2 black zombie creature tokens with menace. Tomb Tyrant buffs up our zombies, and then it has an ability for a black and 2 generic that we can tap it, sacrifice a creature, and we return a zombie creature card from random that is in our graveyard back to the battlefield. We can only activate this on our turn, and if we have 3 or more zombies in our graveyard, which we might at some point late game if we got board wiped. Undead War Chief makes our zombies 1 generic less to cast, and then buffs them up by +2/+1. Will of the Rat Cleave makes it so that when our zombies die, we basically get a token of it because it will come back with a 2/2 black zombie creature token, which is nice. And then at the beginning of our end step, if we choose to sacrifice a zombie, which we could maybe sacrifice one of our tokens, we can draw a card. Eternal Skylord is kind of iffy for us because the first part is when it enters the battlefield, we mass 2, which is a mass zombies 2, but it does give our zombie creature tokens flying, which is kind of important because they will then fly over the top. But it is kind of pricey for 5 mana, so it is also on our maybe cut list. Grey Merchant of Asphodel is fantastic. It is a zombie, and when it enters the battlefield, each opponent will lose X life, where X is our devotion to black, and we gain life equal this way. So if we do play Gary, and then maybe we have a way of sacrificing it, like say the Carrion Feeder, we can get it back with one of our many means like Gisa and Giralf or whatnot, and continue to drain our table and gain some life out of it too. Hordewing Scab for 5 mana, it has flying, and then other zombies we control have flying, and whenever 1 or more zombies we control deal combat damage to 1 or more of our opponents, we draw cards equal to the number of opponents dealt this way, but then we do have to discard that many cards, so be careful. Machias the Unhallowed is a zombie, and it gives other non-humans or zombies +1/+1 and undying so that they would come back if they die. Sorceries are what you would expect for tutor wise. Distant Melody is nice because we can choose a creature type zombie and draw a card for each zombie we control. Patriarch's Bidding allows us to get a bunch of zombies back if we were board wiped. Hopefully it's going to benefit us more than our opponents. Zombie Apocalypse, same type of thing, except it does benefit just us because it returns all zombies and then we destroy all humans. Army of the Damned is nice. If we get enough mana to do that, then we create the 13 tap 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, and only for 2 more mana we can flash it back. So in 2 turns, we can end up making a massive amount of zombies and then start swinging with them, or sacrificing them if we need to. Instance are typical tutors, counter magic, things you would expect. We do play Raise the Draugr, just as a way to get something back out of our graveyard. And Deadly Rollick, of course, so that we can exile a target creature. Artifacts are the typical mana rocks. We do run Bantu's Monument because that will help our black creatures cost 1 generic less, and those are a lot of our expensive zombies. And whenever we cast a creature spell, each opponent will lose a life and we gain 1 life. Decanter of Endless Water is a personal favorite of mine just because of the no maximum hand size. And then Herald's Horn, we would name zombies, and then zombies cost 1 generic less to cast. At the beginning of our upkeep, we look at the top card of our library, and if it is a zombie, we may put it to our hand. Enchantments, we run quite a few. Graph Harvest to give our zombies menace. Cover of Darkness to make sure that our zombies have fear, making it more difficult to block. Endless Ranks of the Dead will help us create X 2/2 black zombie creature tokens, where X is the number that we have rounded down. So over the course of the game, if this is out, we'll continuously make more and more zombies for us. Necroduality will have our non-token zombies into the battlefield, and we'll create a copy of them. Liliana's Mastery gives our zombies +1/+1, and then when it enters, we create 2/2 black zombie creature tokens. And Rooftop Storm allows us to pay 0 the mana cost of our zombies, so this would help reduce some of those big expensive zombies to nothing. Lands, we do run things like Bajuka Bog to bog our graveyard for our opponents. Castle Lockthwain to draw a little bit of cards over the course of the game. Field of the Dead because it's on flavor for us if we play enough lands, and that's why we run some snow-covered lands. because then we end up making zombies with it, so it's very much on flavor for the deck. Mystic Sanctuary will allow us to get back an instant or sorcery spell if we have 3 or more islands. Otawara is either a land or a piece of removal depending on where we're at in the game. If you have played the Scarab God and there are other cards that you recommend playing, let us know what those are. We would love to hear your feedback in the comments below. Or if you have experience playing Scarab God, we'd love to hear how it's gone for you and some of the things that have happened in your pod.